Alright, what's up guys? Real quick before this video starts, I want to let you know about this massive giveaway that I'm doing with all these other YouTubers. We're going to be giving away a PS4 bundle of your choice, either the Black Ops 3 or the Uncharted one, and 100,000 COD points in total. The grand prize winner gets 10,000 COD points, and then the 9 runner-ups also get 10,000 COD points. So there's going to be 10 winners in total. If you click the link in the video description below, you'll get 6 chances to enter the contest, and if you do all 6 of those, you'll get an additional 6 chances, so you have 12 ways to enter this contest. If you're wondering why I'm doing this giveaway, I'm trying to help out my friend Jimmy or Chaos X Silencer. His daughter starting a vlogging channel, so he's got us all together and giving away all this shit so that we can basically juice her channel, because she's going to be doing vlogs all the time now, and we're really excited that she's going to be joining the vlogging community. So please show your support for her and also get the chance to win a whole bunch of free shit. And as you guys know, the black market pretty much robs your shit, so this is a great way to get some free COD points and hopefully unlock all the cool gestures and stupid bats and other random shit that they put in there. So good luck at the giveaway, and hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Peace. Today we're going to be going back to Australia, revisiting the school that I had originally graffitied the shit out of and then went on that big trip or field trip with. Now again, this story is being brought to you by my stupid ass friends, but if you really start to think at it, like a macro sense of looking at all the stories I'm going to tell you, not only have already told you, but I'm going to tell you, it's really based on my dumbass judgment on picking friends. The adverb "you are who you hang with" is very true, especially when you're young. So this story does take place when I'm in Tsinghua and hanging out with Wusung and doing all that shit, but honestly the story centers around my friend Will. Now Will was this really nice, only child, spoiled rotten, fucking uber rich kid in Sydney. Now if you guys don't already know, Sydney obviously is a massive tourist attraction. They have the Opera House. It's a really large city, probably the largest city in that hemisphere. And Will, he was a perfect example of this. When I remember the first time I went to his house, it didn't even look like a house. His house looked like an office building is how large it was. You walked in and it was like an auditorium for an entryway. It had marble freaking everywhere. They had a helicopter landing pad on the roof, indoor pool, bowling alley, like anything you can imagine being in a house. This was like MTV Cribs on crack. But to be honest, about half my friends at the school were like that. Half of them were just super, super rich, and the other half were these people whose parents had saved up their whole lives and pretty much went to work so they could send their kid to this school. Because outside of America, your high school or your, I guess, prep school is really important. So if you went to a really fancy high school, you were getting into the really fancy colleges. Now this is an entirely private system. Over here in America, we have public education at both levels, because even the state schools are government funded. So if you did really good in high school, you had a really good chance of getting into these state schools, and it's all like basically subsidized by the government. Not the case over there, at least not in Totem, so that your prep school maintained like extremely important connections to the colleges over there. So safe to say, when I say I went to Skeggs Reglands and it was a really nice school, no, it was like not necessarily nice facility wise, but like reputation and connection wise, basically a whole bunch of really important rich ass kids went to this school. And Will was one of these guys. Now he was a super prankster, goofy guy, just kind of did whatever the heck he wanted. Obviously me and him were great friends because of this, because I was kind of the same way. Now the source of my humor was being uncomfortable in a whole bunch of different places, because you're probably beginning to realize I moved around like every 2 years my entire life, so I was always the new kid and my in was always humor. Will was just a spoiled rotten only child rich kid and just felt like he could do whatever the fuck he wanted, which to me was absolutely hilarious, because even the teachers, even the disciplinarians wouldn't go too hard on him because his parents were like super important. But like most extremely upper class kids who like have never seen anything but the silver spoon, literally have no idea about the dark underbelly of just inner cities or gangs or just, you know, what they can do and the people that are involved with them and how far people will go, because they're just unaware that people are that big of dicks. Now, of course, I was friends with Will, and I'll tell you plenty of stories in the future about all the crazy shit we would do together in our group of friends. It was me, Will, John, Wusung, and all these dudes, and we used to throw these massive parties, and there's this guy named Borgie that was crazy we were friends with, and I'll have a lot to tell you about that. But we're skipping forward to like the very end of our friendship. So I've already known this guy for 2 years. We started to like not hang out as much as I started to go hang out with Wusung and obviously all the Tsinghua guys, because I was in Tsinghua. So I really had drifted apart from my Australian friends at the school. But of course I still hung out with them in school, because the majority of these Asian gangsters have been kind of weeded out of these schools. Outside of Wusung and myself, I think there was only like 3 other Wusung members at that school, and we didn't really talk to them because they were like 3 levels above us, 3 years older than us, and were from a territory completely outside of what our people were used to dealing with. But of course me and Will like maintained being friends, so like one day he wanted to come hang out with me and Wusung after school. Now of course we're telling him, you know, you probably shouldn't, and not to hate on you or anything like that, but we go hang out in this like kind of dangerous part of Chatswood, and we go hang out at this internet cafe where it's just completely gang related. And I already stick out because obviously I'm half Asian, but I look white. Like, I know this. It's a lot of jokes when I make all the yellowish jokes and things like that. Like, I'm 100% half Asian. My mom's full-blooded Chinese, but my dad's got some strong ass genes, and I don't fucking look Asian really at all, unless you're another mix or another Asian and can kind of see it when I smile. Like, you really have no idea that I'm half Chinese. And that's why pretty much my friends have been making Asian jokes about me my entire life, because it's like, haha, we get to roast you for being half Chinese, but it's not even really racist because you don't look Chinese. Haha, I get it. But anyway, so like this whole time, me and Wusong are looking at each other like, you know, we're boys and we really want to go hang out with you after school, and we'd love to show you this like internet cafe, because really at the basis of it all, we just go there not for the gang activity type stuff. We go there to play StarCraft and freaking Counter-Strike. Yes, if you guys didn't know, Counter-Strike is that old. Counter-Strike has been around for like almost 2 decades. But Will was really insistent. He really wanted to come hang out with us. He didn't want to go home after school, and he had no other plans. And this was, of course, he was an only child, so his social life was just his whole entire living. His parents were extremely important people. Safe to say they worked all the time, and little Will was left alone, so, you know, he would go hang out with kids after school like every day. Here in America, you get back on the yellow school bus and go home, and if you want to go to somewhere to hang out with your friends, you either ride your bike there, or they live near you, or you got to get your parents to drive you there. This was a big ass city with the second best public transportation system in the whole entire planet, so safe to say, as soon as you could buy a bus pass, you had access to the entire city. Envy young people that live there, because here in America, you really don't even get to do all that, aren't even exposed to that kind of lifestyle till you get a car, and for most of us, that's like right at the end of high school. And we were pretty insistent on warning them about like what might happen. Like, there's a bunch of really seedy people there that you might not want to go, and if you want to go, you know, you might want to change because you're still wearing your school uniform, and everyone knows that uniform is Skeggs Reglan's, and it just screams rich kid. But he was pretty insistent. He was a pretty big guy. I mean, the guy was already like 6'2" when we were like in 10th grade. Could easily handle himself, but everyone knows that doesn't really make a difference. Small dudes win fights all the fucking time. If you're a pussy and you don't want to fight, you're a pussy and you don't want to fight, and no amount of being big is ever going to change that. So of course we get on the bus and we start heading towards Chatswood, and literally within seconds of being there, we get surrounded by this group wondering who this big fucking white guy in this sea of Koreans, Chinese, and Vietnamese people are. Like, why are you coming to our internet cafe? They hardly even speak English here. And of course we're telling him who he is, we're all making jokes, and it's all good. But after all the jokes kind of died down, one of Wusung's kind of members, the guy that was kind of like under him, so this was a guy that I knew, walked up to Will and said, hey, can I see your phone? Now, if you're from a big city, and especially like when cell phones first got really popular, and now like your phone was like one of your most expensive accessories, they all had these things called SIM cards. Nowadays, they have the phones linked to the network, so that you actually have to jailbreak them or hack them to be able to change the network. Back then, they all had SIM cards, basically meaning you could take your SIM card out of your phone, stick it in any other phone available, and it would become your phone. All your information, all your contacts, all your settings was all saved on the SIM card, including your connection to your network. So you could literally plug your SIM card into any phone and you would be on your plan, your connection. It was your phone. So phones got stolen like all the freaking time. This was like the hottest commodity for little shit villains are running around the city, especially because all these cell phone stores would buy stolen phones, so kids would just run around stealing cell phones, take them to these stores, and earn like a shit ton of money. Now, I didn't hear him ask for his phone because I probably would have instantly said, nah, man, don't be stealing, don't be robbing this dude, come on, you come in here with us. But nah, this guy screamed rich kid. The dude asked him for his phone, and Will, being Will, just handed it right to him, so the guy just said thanks, said fuck you, and walked away. Now, this is right around where me and Wusung, or me and you, would just, you know, obviously belt the shit out of this dude and start beating the fuck out of him because he just stole your phone. Like, you take my shit, I'm literally gonna come after you. But Will, being kind of like the prissy rich kid, was just like, hey man, give me my phone back. Like, don't take my phone. And when the guy turned around and all of his fucking gang members like said, hey, you want to make something of this? Like, you really want to go? Of course, Will backed down and was kind of like a little pussy about it. And then, you know, as soon as that happened, he walked up the like escalator, because I was like one level above getting something to drink, and told him that these dudes stole his phone. But he didn't even say it like that. He said like, these guys borrowed my phone and they won't give it back. And I'm looking at him like, did you just get robbed in like the 5 minutes I came up to McDonald's to get a Coke? And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So when I walked back down there to talk to the guy, I was like, yo, did you just steal this dude's phone? And he goes, yeah, look at it, it's pretty nice. Like, it was so easy. All I had to do was like ask for the phone and he gave it to me. And I'm like, yo, you gotta give it back. And he goes, no, man, that guy gave it to me. And at this point, I'm just like, all right, whatever, Will deserved it. You can't be that fucking stupid. And although I knew this guy, it wasn't like we were buddies, like we were gang related, so to speak. And I wasn't exactly gonna act like all soft, like, yo, you gotta give this guy his phone back, blah, 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 all this shit. I honestly took the attitude, I was was like, all right, Will wanted to come. You know, this is like a nice lesson because this has happened to me. The first time I went and hung out in one of these places, I got my sunglasses stolen. The guy asked to borrow my sunglasses because it was bright out, made up this whole story about his eyes hurt, put on the sunglasses, and when I asked for them back, he literally just looked at me and told me to fuck off. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's the price of admission to come hang out here because these people have fucking nothing pretty much. And, you know, if you have nice sunglasses, it's probably not a good idea to wear it in certain parts of the neighborhood. And at this point, I'm also on my like 6th or 7th phone because if you get beat up or robbed, like coming home from school or just going home really late in the wrong part of town or just being on a train, like getting robbed for your phone is just, I guess, kind of normal almost. I was just like, kind of fuck it. Oh well. He cries to his mom, he gets a new phone the next day, no big deal. And Will, he didn't even really act all upset because of course he's trying to pull like the tough guy thing. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, whatever. I didn't even really like that phone. And everyone knew how rich he was. He's like, it's okay. I got 2 more at home just waiting. Like, no big deal. And we're like, all right, well, if you don't really mind, we're not going to go start all this shit over a cell phone, especially because you like kind of gave it to him, man. You kind of asked for it. And at the same time, you know, we weren't saying that. We were thinking that. We actually felt pretty bad for the guy because we warned him about all this stuff. And literally within minutes of getting there, this happened. And plus, like 5 minutes later, a whole bunch of kids from the school came and met us there. And we only hung out there for like 5 more minutes and then went to the arcade across the street and just had kind of like a nice kiddie day. It was a good time. But the next morning, I get to school, I get instantly called up to the headmaster's thing. Now, if you don't know what a headmaster is, it's like I guess a European principal, so to speak. And yes, in European schools, they have intercoms and stuff. So literally, as soon as I'm in like, I think it's homeroom or whatever, when they're like, I'm trying to like translate what they call stuff over into American terms. It's like homeroom where they like pretty much take roll. So I get instantly called up to the headmaster's office and they ask me right away, like, what happened yesterday after school? Will's parents are really upset. Will's really upset. Apparently, you took this kid somewhere and he went and got robbed and they think you're in on it and all this shit. And of course, you know, I'm like, no, what the fuck? You know, we went there as friends and we all got robbed because I'm trying to spin it. I'm obviously trying to tell the story like I didn't know the guy and I'm not in this same gang and like, because it looked really bad. Like to hear them say it, it sounds like I took Will somewhere to get robbed. So I'm obviously kind of playing it down, kind of laughing about it, telling the story like, nah, Will, we just went to this bad part of town. Will gave his phone to someone he shouldn't have and he just told him to fuck off. Like I had nothing to do with it, so to speak. I really just kind of played it down, but the whole time I'm thinking like, you know, Will seemed totally cool with all this happening. It was just some dumb luck. It's a big city. There's some bad people around. There was no big deal. Why am I getting the brunt of this? Now, apparently when they took his cell phone, they took his SIM card out and like threw it back at him because when you got robbed for your cell phone back then, the first thing you asked for was your SIM card back because that's the worst thing. You don't want to lose your everything. You know, oh well, a lot of people have replacement phones and you could get it replaced, but you want your SIM card so they're not like, you know, looking through your phone and, you know, using your card and doing everything. So you had your like credit card linked for minutes to that shit. So of course they gave him his SIM card back, but his phone was so fancy that you could save contacts on the actual phone. And these Asian gang dudes obviously thought it was pretty funny to call Will and brag about stealing his phone. And basically we're talking a whole bunch of shit. And Will, you know, Will's got a fiery temper as well. He's a spoiled, rotten rich kid. So he's talking all this shit back about he's gonna come back with his boys and this is gonna be this big gang war, even though his boys are fucking Min Woo Sung. So it became this really big thing and his parents eventually saw like the cell phone because apparently they like paid his bill that day or they like watched his text and they brought it instantly to the police. So this became like just one after school dumb fuck thing that happened to this huge clusterfuck that was now involved the police and the school. And this whole thing kind of makes relevant the first part of this video where I was telling you how big, rich, and important fucking Will's parents were because, you know, they obviously called the school and put a shit ton of pressure on the school to find out what happened. But surprisingly enough, I didn't get kicked out of school right then or they didn't ask me to leave right then. The whole point of this meeting was for me to go back to Chatswood and get Will's phone back after school. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, it's kind of fucked up that the school made me go back because obviously, you know, I'm a student there and they pretty much asked me to go back into gang territory, ask the guy who robbed Will to get the phone back. But believe it or not, I think they just asked me to go do that because they were trying to really test if I knew these guys. Because if I really knew these guys, this shouldn't be a problem. I should be able to call them and get Will's phone back. And it makes it really look like I set this whole thing up. Well, of course, dumbass Cumduff had no fucking idea what was going on. So of course I went back to these guys after school and of course I got his cell phone back. Because I told them, I was like, yo, motherfuckers, you guys texted these dudes? What are you, the dumbest criminals in the fucking world? They know everything about you. They've read all your texts. They know where we were. They know where you're from. There's video cameras everywhere. Like, you just totally got fucking busted. And this kid you robbed is like super fucking wealthy and his parents are super fucking rich and you're like the dumbest little wannabe criminal ever. But all you gotta do is give me the phone back. I bring it back to him and it all goes away. Now, of course, he bought this story. Now, I was making it up, but honestly, it's actually totally true now that I go back and look at it. So I got his phone. I bring it back to school the next day. I give it back to Will and it's no big deal. Like, he was like, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. Then I get called up to the headmaster's office again. Literally, as soon as I walk in there, they say, hey, we've had a lot of problems with you, Justin. We're going to have to ask you to leave the school. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I figured I was getting suspended or whatever. And I was like, all right, no big deal. Like, I'll go home. I understand. But no, they actually wanted to set up a meeting with me and my parents to withdraw me from the school totally. Apparently, Will's parents were so mad, they wanted him kicked out of the school, or they were going to yank Will out of that school. And they didn't want him falling in with the wrong crowd and all this stuff. And it made this huge deal about getting me removed from the school. And this was, of course, a big deal to me because this is a big private school. It's my school. It's where most of my friends go, even though I'd fallen out with most of them. And most of the kids I was hanging out with actually didn't go to school at this point. But moreover, some of my dad's work friends actually had their kids at the same school. So shit gets around. It's kind of a small community at that level of like education and that level of, politics, so to speak, with a whole bunch of rich people. Now, of course, my parents were incredibly upset about this and actually called Will's parents to set up kind of like a meet and greet to kind of explain it that, our kid isn't this Asian gangster, isn't the bad crowd. Like, we're American. We're out here in a foreign land and he's just moved here like 2 or 3 years ago and we're moving back in a year. And this kid that used to play soccer and t-ball isn't this big bad Asian gangster that you don't really need to go to the lengths to get him kicked out of the school. And this was one of the most awkward situations I've ever been in because literally the next day after school, we all went over to this guy's extremely huge house that looks literally like an office building. Now, of course, they had tea or whatever, and me and Will just went and hung out at the back of his house, and like he was actually apologizing to me. He felt bad that his parents were getting so pissed about it, and I felt really bad, and we just kind of hung out as friends. Even some of our other friends who were just like around the area came to hang out with us and ended up spending the whole day with them. No big deal. But my parents, of course, they were fucking livid. They were just so angry that I made them just go grovel and kiss ass to these extremely pompous fucking rich people. And my parents worked their way up, so they don't like rich people just like I don't like rich people. Their whole attitude, everything about them usually pisses me the fuck off. And my dad was no different, so he was pretty angry and just disappointed that he had to go do that. But at the end of the day, I thought the whole situation was over. And we had the weekend. I went and hung out with Will. I was trying to get away from those Asian gang people as well, because Woo-sung was becoming less and less my friend and more like this Dai-Lo guy that was like, I guess, orchestrating like his part of the gang. And really the only reason why I joined was so I could hang out with him at this internet cafe and we could play StarCraft and Counter-Strike without getting robbed or fucking beat up every single time we went near it. But no, that wasn't the end of it. Monday morning, I got pulled back into the headmaster's office and they strongly insisted that I leave. And they insisted so strongly that they held me in that office until my mom actually came to the school and had the meeting with us. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to class. And they said, we're going to call your mom. But nope, they made me sit there the whole entire time. I was not going to be going back to class. And when my mom got there, they cut right to the chase and said, hey, we're going to ask you to leave the school. And if you don't leave, we're going to kick your son out. And my mom was extremely upset and I'm sitting there going like, why? And they eventually explained to me I was gang related and that because of this whole situation, it verified me as a gang member. And obviously we're in a big city, so gangs are a big ass problem. And I ended up actually having to leave the private school. It was a really big deal to my parents and to me. It was just really fucked up, especially because it was like in the middle of the school year. And I wasn't getting kicked out like at the end of the semester. I was getting kicked out right then and there. Like that was it. I was not coming back to this school. And it was super embarrassing for my dad and my family and all this stuff. But of course we accepted their offer of just letting us leave. And we painted it to my dad's work friends that we decided to go to a different school. And I actually ended up transferring to this American international school, which taught the American curriculum and had like the American system of school. And the main difference being the Australian school system is year round. So Americans obviously have this like summer to summer school system so that you get the summers off and that's actually when you change grades. Over there in Australia and a lot of Europe, like Christmas is when you actually switch from like 10th grade to 11th grade. And that marks the beginning of the school year. It kind of follows the calendar. But yep, that's pretty much the only time I've ever been kicked out of a school, and it was this prissy fucking private school, and that ruined my friendship with Will. Like, we never spoke again after that. I never really spoke to any of those kids there, save Woo-sung. I was still hanging out with him for like the first couple months of the American International School. Now, I eventually cut ties with all these motherfuckers and actually paid my way out of the gang and got to go be a kid again at the school, so it does have somewhat of a happy ending. And I really enjoyed this American International School because I was there with a bunch of other Americans and actually a whole bunch of kids that had transferred from SCUFs, because right before you go move back to America, all the parents wanted them to go to this American International School, and it's actually how we found out about it, was my dad's work friends, because they were like, hey, you can move your kid here right before you move back home, and it gets them recalibrated with the American school system, and it just makes the transition a whole lot easier. So it ended up not even really being a thing to everybody else, because everyone just assumed we were doing just that based on my dad's work friends' recommendations. But safe to say, I never saw Will or any of these other guys again. Now, I have Facebook stalked them since then. He actually lives here in New York now. One of these days, I might try to hook up with him and just be like, yo, remember this crazy story and all this stuff. But yep, your boy got kicked out of a private school for the most part, which after a couple weeks was awesome, because the American International School had like American shit, and they let us watch like the NFL games because they had the satellite in, so we could actually do all the American stuff. And there was an American American store like right down the street where you could buy a box of fucking Cheerios for like $30 and Oreos for 20 bucks. And then I ended up moving back to America like literally 7 months after that anyways. So I guess the moral of this story is you really are who you hang with, and not because it changes who you are. You're always going to be you, but to the rest of the world, you're only what they can see. Like, no one can download your feelings and emotions and thoughts. Like, everyone's input of you, opinions of you, no matter what, no matter how great you are, is totally based on your outward appearance, and who you surround yourself with speaks extremely loud about that. So if you move to Sydney, Australia, and you really like StarCraft, maybe don't join the shitty little teenage gang so you can go there and play, because it might get you kicked out of a pretty rich kid's school because some kid is literally afraid to fight. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys tomorrow.